Working on some issues over here. There we go. Now it seems to be there. I'm not sure if I'm live yet. I'm checking it out. If you're out there in Facebook land and you can hear me, let me know. I'm gonna try to get some sound going on here. Line in is on, so that should be working. Let's go and test it. Let's pull up a Facebook page. We are live. This is Eli Rigatuso. Speaking of happy, and we are live at Omaha's Pride Festival at the CHI Center in downtown Omaha. I'm actually trying to figure out whether or not my live stream is working. I could just be talking to myself. I do talk to myself sometimes, so look at this. Oh my gosh. We actually have, and it looks as though there's audio. If y'all knew all of the stuff that I go through to get this set up so that we could be doing these live streams, you would, not that you would be shocked. I'm sure you wouldn't be shocked. We are on a two-shot, and you can go ahead and say hello.
Hello.
Hello. And you are, introduce the world to you.
Oh, hello, world. My name is Tashina, and I'm a friend of Eli's here. Been helping him out. I'm a mom of kiddos who are LGBTQ. I have a transgender kiddo, a gender fluid kiddo, so pretty close to our hearts.
Yeah. Well, tell us what else you're doing here.
I am also here with some of my beadwork. I do indigenous style beadwork because I'm indigenous, different nation from Eli, but still relatives. And so I do indigenous style. I've got some of my LGBTQ themed beadwork that I've brought with today. I'm going to be, when I'm not helping Eli, I'll be out there at the table and I'll be doing beadwork, talking to people, talking about, speaking of happy, talking about my beadwork, just trying to get all of our stuff out there, trying to talk to the people, make sure people know that their representation is here in all forms.
Yes. That's one of the biggest things. I think, what I love, I got to tell you, what I love about being in the parade is the little kids who, like, all I had to do was honk the horn of my truck. And they go crazy, waving and hollering and just,
It's the best.
excuse me. It's just amazing. The parade itself was, I think, 190 entries.
Wow.
The parade started at 10, and I think it went all the way until noon, until the doors opened here. So it was massive, a massive showing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
I love it.
And so it's just awesome. It's awesome to be able to have the kind of energy that is here, and I just love it.
And I think it's important too for the youth especially, but I feel like for all of the LGBTQ world, to understand that whether you are among the LGBTQ, whether you are an ally, friend, family, like, we are all in this together. And I think people don't understand that it is a huge part of the population, you know? I hear so many people talk about, well, it's just like 1% of... No, the problem is only 1% feel comfortable enough to let you know.
There you go. See, that's the big thing. There are way more of us than I think people even imagine. Like, so, they say, like, back in my early days of Pride, they say 10% is LGBTQ+. The 1% is probably, when you're talking about 1 to 2%, is probably folks who identify as trans. So either transgender, non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender diverse, or gender expansive. Like, that's what I think that they mean when they mean that, 1% or 2%. But the other piece of that is, why do we say, oh, well, it's only a couple, small percentage, but that literally is thousands of people.
And there's still people who deserve to be treated just like any other human being with respect, with advocacy. They have rights just like anybody else. I don't care if it's only one person. That one person is a person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, we are going to be here all day. If you are not at the event, stay tuned. Keep watching the Facebook page because we will be doing some live broadcasts here at the venue all day long. So I'm going to be here until at least 6 o'clock this evening, trying to get this camera to work right, but it keeps dying on me. So, and it's not. It's not as easy to operate all of this stuff with being a one-man band. I am a one-man band. I do this kind of stuff pretty much just me. My therapist keeps telling me that I need to hire a staff of people who will actually come and get everything set up, and then I just show up and be the talent. If I could afford to do that, believe me, I would love to be able to offload some of this responsibility on someone else because my 58-year-old knees and my 58-year-old ankles are not happy with me right now. So anyway, I'm going to pause this live stream. Actually, I might even just keep it up and keep it running so people can see us moving around in and out of the trailer and whatnot. I mean, it's not a pretty sight because I'm not a little guy, but
Well, I'm not a little grill. So.
yeah, but we are going to be here all day. So please come look for the trailer. Come take a picture of yourself standing in front of the trailer and tag hashtag speaking of happy. If you want to come and get in the trailer with me, and actually we lost a camera over there, but if you want to come in and get in the trailer and tell me what pride means to you, we will be here today having those conversations. So thank you very much. We'll be back shortly. Myself. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, we are back. We are back here live at Omaha Pride. So excited to be here. I have a couple of special guests with me, although I'm terrible. So you want to make sure that that microphone is right in your mouth.
There we go.
There, that one's for you. The other one is for Chance. So I have this lovely couple. Go ahead and introduce yourselves for the folks that are online with us.
Hi, my name is Bo Hymus. I am the wife of my beautiful husband here, who's part of the LGBT advisory board for the mayor.
Nice.
Yep. Bo introduced me. I'm Chance. We're both also state employees as well, working for DHHS and other basically we're in the Medicaid department assisting with that as well.
Oh, okay. Yes. There's lots of, there's lots of interesting things happening at DHHS
Oh yes.
as it relates to folks who are trans. And can you tell us a little bit about that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So we're unfortunately kind of a behind the scenes office. So as far as our office is concerned, we're the Andy Center or the Access Nebraska, the online portal for Medicaid. And so we in our office are kind of secluded from everybody else. But everyone at our office, at least the Omaha office, is super supportive of me and my wife, super supportive of her appointments towards endocrinology, understanding that she needs those various appointments and being respectful with that. As far as other policy issues, that comes down from the people at the top, and unfortunately, some of those people at the top don't have the right frame of mind for this type of helping people live better lives.
Do you think that there's a possibility at all that we could see some changes, or are they open to having a conversation with folks who can better educate them about the issues?
So we're actually in a unique position where the director of DHHS has just stepped down, so that vacancy will need to be filled soon, and I'm hoping that person will be just as flexible as the last person was. Of course, Diane was a bit, I think her name was Diana, but I can't remember exactly, or pardon me if I get it wrong, but she just left, or announced that she was leaving, and I'm hoping that this next person that will come in will also bring the sort of inclusivity view that she brought to the team as well. Unfortunately, it is at the pick of the governor, so I hope that the governor will be able to make the right decision in that choice. As of right now, that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, as we've seen in some of the things that have happened with our legislature this last session, that doesn't sound very hopeful. But, we can always hope, right?
And that's why I hope that, at least us being visible within DHHS as an open couple, me being a gender fluid pansexual man and my wife being a trans woman, we like to create that, that open communication where people can, if they're, want to know more or want to learn about us, that, we're not demons or villains or anything. We're just normal people.
Yeah, exactly. What do you wish people understood about, what it means to be a trans person?
I think the main sort of misinformation that comes out around, especially when we're talking about trying to give gender affirming care to youth, is that this sort of misinformation about how it's harmful to kids, even though especially when you go into sort of medications like say puberty blockers, we've literally been using them since the 80s, especially for early onset puberties. So we know all the medical information regarding a lot of these procedures, and we know for a fact that in almost 96% of cases, I think it's literally just safe, and it prevents say high suicide rates, and just makes children just feel much better about themselves.
Yeah. So do you mind sharing a little bit about your own personal story? How old were you when you came out as trans?
Do you actually mind? This is my favorite story
Okay.
of our relationship. So Bo and I were together at the time. I identified as a gay man, and so Bo called me from work, and she goes, at the time she was working for a call center, and she was getting misgendered a lot on the phone, and she called me, and she goes, I kind of like it.
Well, it's so essentially because even especially on cameras, and especially on over the phone, I tend to have a much more feminine voice. So obviously, back when I used to identify as a man, I would often get called, thanks ma'am, but whenever all of a sudden I just went, I actually don't really mind being called ma'am that much, and so I eventually just called Chance, and I was like, hey, I've actually been been getting called ma'am a lot at work, and I don't really mind it. Would you mind just calling me by she, her, and just sort of essentially treating me more like a woman.
Wow. So how did that feel, Chance? What were your thoughts?
So it was a little bit difficult for me who identified as a gay man, but I love Bo more than anything. Whether Bo's a man, woman, whoever she chooses she wants to be, I'll support my wife in anything through that. We had a big scare back last summer with the court case after Roe v. Wade with what Clarence Thomas said, and we looked at one another in that moment and we said, you know, do you want to do this? Because, we might not have the option to later. And we both looked at each other without hesitation. We agreed. And so that, to me, is just that sense of love that, transcend whatever physical, you know, bodies that we have or, whatever we identify ourselves as.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because I think what happens as well is that there's not enough stories around couples and what happens when one person comes out as trans and how does that impact the relationship? Do you feel like through this you had difficulty in adjusting to these changes? And if you can share a little bit about how that felt for you.
For me, I was going to be honest, a little bit distraught at first. At first hearing it, the first kind of borderline insulting thought that came to my mind was, well, I don't want her to lose her member. And that's not the appropriate way to think about that. And so I talked to my therapist first, and I was like, that's not appropriate. I love her more than whatever she's got tucked away in her pants. And so I talked to my therapist about it, and so then I spoke to my wife, and just keeping that open line of communication and honesty about your feelings and about your misgivings, because not to be rude about it, don't be insulting, don't be rude, just honestly open up to your partner on a one-on-one. And if you can't be that way on the one-on-one with your partner, then communication needs to be established first before anything.
Well, and do you think that, again, your identity as a gay man at that point is, it starts to call that into question, because what does that mean for you, right?
Exactly.
And so I think that we don't have enough conversations, like frank conversations about that, what that means to each person in the couple. And I mean, how do you feel about and if you're not willing to talk about this, I'm totally fine with it. But how do you feel in regard to like your own physical self and what is true for you?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, especially fairly recently, after medically transitioning for about over a year now, I recently have sort of gone a little bit more dysphoric, especially in terms of like, say, my member, and like I have like talked with Chance about this, and at first he obviously wasn't as like excited about it because obviously like as a gay identifying person, like obviously he probably won't be as like sexually attracted, but at the same time, sexual and romantic attraction are, kind of two completely different things. So like we'll still have that like strong love. It's just more like obviously like I've kind of just been feeling much less how to say this? I don't exactly feel as attached to sort of like my my member essentially, like as I was like back then. So
Right. And I'll tell you, I mean, I'm trans, and my partner and I have had conversations about this because, I think that when it comes to sex and sexuality, how we feel about ourselves is really important. And so, I think that having more conversations around this, because I know that there are people who are like, and I think that from trans people to trans people, having frank conversations about that and about our bodies is way different than a cis person who wants to know all of the things about all of the parts, because it's really none of their business. But I think from trans person to trans person, because what would it be like if you were actually raised in an environment that honored and affirmed you as your body is now? Do you feel that that may have been different for you and how you feel about your body today, if that were the fact, if that were the case?
I mean, possibly. I know like in some cases there would still obviously sort of still essentially be sort of that general I guess like a dysphoria that some people feel, but I think if definitely like say if there was like much more I guess like affirming attitudes toward I guess like what sort of like body a certain like gender identity is supposed to have, like there probably wouldn't be as like many sort of like dysphoric feelings.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that way a lot, and I mean, I don't know. Maybe you and I should connect for an episode of Frankly Speaking, if you're willing to go
I mean,
there.
yeah, I
and
definitely do.
have that in-depth conversation around body parts. So,
Yeah.
anyway, Bo and Chance, thank you so much for being here with me today in the podcast trailer at Heartland Pride at the CHI downtown. I've got another person waiting to come in and be interviewed, so I'm going to cut this interview short. But I'm so grateful for anybody who shows up. Chance, I just love you. We serve on the board together. You're just a... I'm going to get a little weepy. You're just a great human being.
I try to be.
Yeah, you don't even have to try. You just are. You have a good heart,
You guys.
and I just appreciate you. So,
And
anyway.
if there's one thing I can say to your viewers, the one thing that makes any trans relationship work when your partner is transitioning is that open and honest communication. Believe it or not, my mentor of 10 years recently, her husband came out as trans, and it was a hard time because they've been married for 50 plus years.
Wow.
But she took it in strides, and I advised her, open communication is key. And that communication is what saved them and what saved Bo and I. It's communication saves everything.
I love it. I love it. I love you. I'm so happy for you both that you have a wonderful relationship. All right. We
Thank
are
you,
going
Eli.
to, you're welcome. We're going to take a quick pause here while we switch out our person who's being interviewed. We have someone coming in from Omaha for Us, which is the new LGBTQ plus resource center that will be opening here in a few weeks in Omaha. 190 entries in the parade. It literally was like a 2.5 hour long parade. So that was just incredible. So wonderful to see all of the floats that were in the parade. I actually didn't get to see a lot of it because I was participating with Speaking of Happy, which is my thing. And then I also had Omaha for Us walked with us this year. If you are unfamiliar with Omaha for Us, I hope to have a conversation with John Carl Dinkovich, who is the founder and executive director of Omaha for Us, and also this year's Grand Marshal. So one other thing that you can do if you're curious about what's going on today at Pride is you can download the virtual Pride Guide, which is available on heartlandpride.org's website. So you just navigate to the website. But I wanted to talk a little bit about John Carl. John Carl is amazing. Human, has done so many things for the LGBTQ plus community for a number of years now, politically and also personally. But John Carl is a local activist, advocate, and community leader working for nearly 2 decades to advance LGBTQ plus equality. And I'm going to move my, so I'm not looking so far away from the camera. As the founding executive director, oh, there he is. Come on in. Come on in. Come. All right. Well, I'm going to keep the camera rolling, but I have to open the door for John Carl. Hold on. Tell. So actually, John Carl, why don't you come in first? Reagan, have a seat over there. We are live at this moment. So come in, have a seat there by that microphone. You're going to have to get behind it. There you go. Oh. Yeah, you're going to have to we're live right now, folks. Put that and you're going to have to sit back because that camera right there is...
Are we really like that?
Yeah, we're really like that. There's all that going on. John Carl, I was just talking about you.
Oh, nice.
Your ears must have been burning because
Yes.
I am live literally at this very moment, and I was finishing queuing you up here when you
Wow.
waved at me in the window. So let me finish reading this lovely little piece here that is in the Pride Guide. So John Carl, let's see, I'm going to back up a little bit. As the founding executive director of Omaha for Us, an Omaha-based nonprofit center, they are addressing the needs of the LGBTQ plus individuals and families by providing culturally responsive human services and creating intentional community space for LGBTQ plus people. John Carl's many intersections include queer, non-binary, and Jewish, as well as living with hidden disability. John Carl served on several boards for Douglas County, City of Omaha, and the Jewish community, focused on policy, education, and improving quality of life for marginalized Nebraskans. So let's have a big round of applause for John
Thank
Carl. Hi, John Carl.
Hello. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Totally appreciate you taking time. I know you stopped by earlier. This is what happens. I will sit here by myself and wait and wait. And I'm messaging people. I'm like, I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you. And then 5 people show up at once. So
Always.
we've got some folks from Heartland Pride who have also stepped into the trailer and are going to be talking to us here in just a moment. But I wanted to invite John Carl in to talk a little bit more about Omaha for Us and what we're doing. I am actually a member of the board, but what the center is really specifically focusing on, and when is it opening?
Yeah, well, the center is specifically focused on our community. So individuals, children, families, all of the folks that are LGBTQ plus, we are empowering and uplifting our community through building intentional community and creating equitable space. So that really means creating a space where people can feel safe, can feel supported, can be authentically themselves, and you don't need a reason to come into the space, which is one of the great things about it. You can come and hang out, read a book, have a cup of coffee, meet up with some friends for a board game. It doesn't have to be, receiving services, although if you are looking for services like mental health services, that is part of what we are providing. And we also have a clothing closet with gender-affirming clothing and access to things like breast forms and prosthetics, binders, packers, STPs, all of the things that folks that are looking to socially transition might need, especially if they don't have access to gender-affirming care. We know that transitioning is expensive, and so we are partnered with TransStitchin and are providing a beautiful clothing closet for them. Once these industrial racks come in, that space is really going to be awesome. There is a dedicated youth space, a library, there is a community room, there's 2 conference rooms. There's also a bunch of co-located partners there too. So you can look for TransStitchin out in Nebraska, PFLAG, Glisten, WCA will have some office hours there. So we are just really trying to create a resource shopping mall, as our board member Alex likes to say. So we want as many people to come into the space and to use the space as possible.
That is amazing, and I love hearing all of that. So when it does open, what can people expect? Like, are there going to be open hours for folks to come in and check the space out and do things? Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, great question. So the first thing I want people to know is that I would love to give you all the world right away, 24/7, all the things. However, with a nonprofit with limited staff and limited budget, we do have operating hours, and this is not going to be a flashy opening like you might see at the Kiewit Luminarium. We just don't have that kind of funding yet. You can change that. We are always looking for donations as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Visit us at omahaforus.org to make a donation. That is tax deductible. When we open on Monday, we'll open at 10 a.m. Typically, we are not open on Mondays. Generally, our operating hours are from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Friday. We are open on other days for programming specifically. So that just means you may not be able to come have coffee and just hang out on Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday afternoon. But if there's a program going on, we would still be open for that. So I may not be there, but out in Nebraska may be having a card writing party. WCA may be doing an intimate partner violence workshop. You just need to check the website for announcements for that. But yeah, visit us online at omahaforus.org and look for announcements and our address.
That is amazing. So awesome to hear. Can you tell me a little bit more? So you named a few folks that are co-locating there out in Nebraska, WCA, which is the Women's Center for Advancement. Yeah, see, I'm so good. Sometimes I remember things. Not always, but sometimes. And I also multitask. Who else is going to be co-located in the space?
Yeah, PFLAG, Glisten, Trans-Stitchin, Owlish. We are also looking at a number of other partners that I cannot say yet, but stay tuned for more because we're really excited to be looking at some additional opportunities.
Such a tease, John Carl. You're such a tease.
Have to stay tuned and visit the website to find out.
Well, that's amazing. I am so excited about this. Can you tell me, for folks who would probably ask, why do we even need a space like this?
That's a great question. It's a question I hear a lot. Why do LGBTQ people need special services or a special building? We think it is special, but at the same time, this is really giving equitable treatment. So oftentimes, human services, doctors, other folks are not trained about how to serve our community, and so they say and do hurtful things intentionally and unintentionally. That doesn't mean that we won't make mistakes at the center either, but we have LGBTQ plus community front and center as our focus, and so we are doing our very best to make sure that we can deliver the services that are maybe not being delivered elsewhere, and if we can't provide it for you, we will do our best to locate who can provide it in a safe and affirming way for you. So we're really the intermediary and the connecting point for all of the things that we can't provide, but we hope to be as much of a one-stop shop as possible. But that's really why LGBTQ plus folks need people that are competent, because people who are not trained in delivering services and care in our community can cause irreparable harm, life-altering, life-changing, life-ending, poor care, poor advice, whether they mean to or not.
Yeah.
So it's just so important that we have front of mind. No one person can know everything, but with our community front of mind, we hope to be able to deliver as much support and positive affirmation as possible. And like I said, we certainly will make mistakes. We're humans, but we have our community at front of mind, and we want to do our very best to give folks what they need and meet folks where they're at, whether that's first and foremost our LGBTQ folks, but also the folks that are in those people's lives. So friends, family, spouses, partners, all of the folks. So
yeah, and I like that you touched on the fact that, like, even folks who are trained, we're an ever evolving community. I think we're ever evolving as humans, and back in 2015, 2016, you hardly heard about trans people. Now it's all over the place, but mostly because we've got folks who are not our friends, who have huge support for the things that they're doing, that are spewing all of these lies about the community, and that really does hurt us in the long run. So it's not about special services. I mean, think about this. How many homeless shelters are out there that are actually not friendly, right? There's not a lot of places where LGBTQ plus folks can go without being proselytized to, right? Or indoctrinated, or somehow have to leave some sort of portion of themselves at the door in order to receive services. So I think it's really important to understand we need more services like this. We need more organizations that are focusing specifically on our community, and we deserve it. Like, we deserve it.
Exactly, and imagine if we only had one restaurant to go to or one coffee shop to go to. Really, the way that our economic system is built, the way that our service system is built, is competition and options. And when LGBTQ plus people don't have options, they will make do or go without, and that's really the dangerous part. So everything from medical care to foster care to adoption to appropriate medical services, dental services, hair care, all of the things. When you only have one option or one organization, like Omaha for us is depended upon for everything, as soon as people heard that there was a center opening, we started getting referrals and requests for things that we just, of course, hope and dream of doing someday. But it's really hard for folks to know that there aren't resources out there, but then say, oh, well, here's Omaha for us, they'll help you.
Yeah.
Well, if resources flowed as freely to LGBTQ plus organizations as they do to other types of organizations, maybe we could do all of those things. But I routinely have to spend evenings, nights, weekends telling people that there's nothing that we can do to help you. The pockets are only so deep. A lot of our resources are restricted about what we can use the funding for. So yes, I have an empty building. Would I love to fill it up with LGBTQ people that need a home? Absolutely. But the building isn't licensed for that. And there's a whole other set of circumstances and legal implications that come along with that. And it's not sexy or fun to talk about. It's also not fun to tell people no when you know that you have money in the bank and you know that someone is going without a roof over their head because there is no safe place for them to go. So I would love to be able to offer a housing program, and we can do that with your help. But without the help and the support of the community, we just have to wait for the evolution of donors and economics and go through the dog and pony show that comes with appealing to folks with resources to pass those resources along. And that's really hard because the need is urgent and the time is now for you to get involved. If you're sitting on the sidelines waiting for the time, consider this the alarm. This is the bell ringing. We need you on the front lines because other communities that are out to harm LGBTQ people are not sitting on the sidelines. They are putting forward their money, their time, their effort. We saw what happened in Nebraska's legislature. These things are not on the sidelines. People are involved now, and we really need you. If you have the time and the resources to spare, we need you to get involved in whatever way it matters and makes a difference and is possible for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, John Carl, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate having you. We're going to take a little break. Going to pause for just a moment while we switch out and get set up for our next interview. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. The Pride Guide here and share with you about some of the vendors that are here today. But I thought, I'm actually going to find someone who has more information than me about vendors and invite them to talk to me today. So I have hoodwinked Reagan Smith, who is the logistics coordinator for Heartland Pride. And Reagan is here with me today to chat a little bit about what's going on and who's all here. I mean, how many vendors are there here today?
289.
289. That is massive.
Yes, I've been busy.
Oh my gosh, you have been more than busy. Like, that is wild. How do you keep track of all that?
I honestly don't. I don't sleep much either right now. So.
Well, I mean, that's one thing that they don't tell you when you volunteer for Pride, that you're going to be stuck doing lots of things, getting very little sleep, putting in a lot of steps, and doing a lot of things. So tell me, is this the most vendors that we've had at a Pride?
It is so far, and the parade was the largest parade in Nebraska history. So this year has been a huge success. We're very excited for all of our vendors to be here. We've got 89 artisan vendors who are here as well. So some of your smaller businesses that are coming in and actually selling their goods. So this is a very large Pride this year. So everyone's loving out loud this year an awful lot.
That is phenomenal. So I heard that there were 190 people in the parade, or is that number off?
You'd have to ask Samuel. I'm not sure exactly, but we were anticipating about 7,000 people walking in the parade today.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow. So the largest in Omaha's history compared with any parade in Omaha?
Any parade in Nebraska.
Oh, any parade in Nebraska, and we were the largest.
We were the largest.
See? I mean, come on. Come on, y'all. We are loud and proud.
Yes, we're...
So, did you do your, do you know whether or not they did the voting and selected the best?
They did do the voting. It will be announced this afternoon, I believe, at 3 o'clock. But I've kind of been in my own little world, as you can imagine, with that many vendors. So I'm not exactly sure on what time they're announcing that. But We did have judges this morning, and they took 3 different categories. I believe it's best in theme, best overall float, and I can't remember the third one off the top of my head, but they do have different themes that they're judging on every year. So we'll stay tuned for our winners to that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. So tell me, in regard to vendors, like what are some of the vendors that are available? Like who's out there, who's doing what? Can you give me some kind of highlights about some different vendors?
Absolutely. So we have Heartland Center for Reproductive Care as one of our big VIP vendors this year. They've got a wonderful booth over there. We also have Kroger, who has sponsored our photo booth. So Baker's here in town is sponsoring our photo booth. You can come down and get your picture taken. It's got a frame around it with Baker's up at the top. So they've been kind enough to get us a photo booth this year and get that taken care of for us.
Nice.
We also have Walmart. That's one of our great sponsors. Walmart is here with a big booth. They've got some beach balls over there and all kinds of colors in their booth. It's an awful lot of fun this year. So those are some of our bigger vendors. We also have some small vendors that this is their first time at the Expo Center. So this is wonderful for them because they're able to get out there and they're excited. They've got their nerves. They're not sure what to expect, but it's a wonderful mix this year of some of our larger donors and some of our smaller artisan donors. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, that is truly amazing. I mean, 289 vendors. Did you have a feeling from last year to this year that it would grow that much? Like what's the difference total vendor wise?
I wish I knew exactly. I'm not sure. I was actually a spectator last year. I got thrown into this role of logistics coordinator about 3 weeks ago. So I had 3 weeks to kind of get up to speed and get everything ready to go and get everything organized. So it's been a whirlwind for sure for me, but I don't know the exact number difference between last year and this year.
Well, tell me a little bit about what it takes, because I know that first of all, Heartland Pride is an all-volunteer board and all volunteers, helping make this thing happen. That's a lot of parts and pieces to keep organized and situated.
Yes.
So, I mean, I know you're new to all of this, but can you tell me a little bit about why you would even step into a position like that?
Well, I can tell you a story about last night and kind of warms my heart about why I did this. You never know who you're going to touch or what that touch is going to mean to somebody else's life. Last night I saw someone register to vote for the first time. A young lady at the age of 19 registered to vote for the first time right in front of me, went over to the Save Our Schools petition and signed her first petition right in front of me. So it kind of chokes me up a little bit to even think about it, but that's why I do what I do. Those little moments, or that one kid who felt like they were different in school than everybody else but came to a place where they were able to love out loud. So that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, do you know how many folks were here last night for Youth Pride? Do you have any idea?
We honestly don't know because it's a free event and people come and go at will, so we don't have numbers on that. I know that we had 1,500 pre-sales for our concert this evening. That was that last count. I don't know what it is right now, but that line is very long. That's actually what I was just doing, was corralling some of that line out there to get their tickets. So,
and I pulled you away from your duties. I'm so sorry.
yeah, so there's a lot going on out there, but the line is proceeding very quickly, but there is a line to get tickets out there, which is wonderful to see because then we're getting more people in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is really just huge. And I'm actually choked up too because I was sharing earlier that just driving through the parade, seeing some of these young kiddos waving from the sidelines, the kiddos with their trans flags, and they see my truck with the trans flag on the hood, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cool." And so, I mean, it's such a huge thing. That visibility is so huge, and I'm just really blown away. 289 vendors is unbelievable. When I started Heartland Pride with 4 other people back in like 2010 or something, we always envisioned a large pride, but this is truly phenomenal. So thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for volunteering to take over logistics. I know that Olivia had been doing it prior to you, and she was amazing.
She is amazing. She's still here. She is amazing.
Yes, she is amazing. Is she going to still help out next year, or is she stepping down?
I'll need her. She is stepping down off the board, but I will need her next year. So I'm going to voluntold her that she. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Olivia, you don't get to go anywhere. Good luck. Well, I love that. Well, Reagan, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you have a lot going on, and I can actually just kind of run through the Pride Guide and find out, share more about what's happening with the vendors that are out there. But if you are not here, if you are not down at the CHI, this is going to be going on until, I believe, 5, right? Vendors?
5 o'clock. Mm-hmm.
So the vendors are going to be closing off at about 5 o'clock, and it is 2:20. You have plenty of time to get down here, get a ticket, come on in, check out all of these phenomenal vendors. I know that there are businesses out there that are looking for new employees. There is all kinds of opportunities. They're giving away all kinds of goodies. So get down here to the CHI Center for Heartland Pride 2023 celebration, and be sure to stop by the Speaking of Happy podcast trailer and say hello to me. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this. What's going on? There are still people buying tickets to get into the festival and into the venue for tonight's big celebration. I know they had 1,500 advance tickets, but there's still a long line of people trying to get in. So maybe next year you might want to purchase your ticket in advance, then you can bypass any long lines and get right in. But I have my next guest. I'm excited to talk to this next guest for a couple of reasons. Number one is they're here representing a company that this is their first Pride. Like, it's hard for me not to get choked up about that because I'm an old guy. I'm an old curmudgeon. I've been around doing this for a while. And so to see something that I was part of get so huge it just makes me so happy. I just really, honestly, I'm just so happy that it has gotten so big. Like, it was the largest parade in Nebraska happened here today in Omaha at the Pride Parade. That's huge. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and how feelings about that, because my next guest is actually here to discuss a couple of different things. The fact that their company is here for the first time ever at a Pride, and going to talk a little bit about what it was like to be a part of Pride many, many decades ago when it was very small. So please join me in welcoming Vince Percy, who I said is here from Mad Hatter Auto Repair.
Yep.
Yeah. So Vince, thank you so much for coming back, and we've known each
Absolutely.
other for decades.
Well, I had a little bit of brown hair, I think, when we met. Yeah.
Well, you might have had more than just a little bit.
maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. So Vince is here with Mad Hatter. Tell me a little bit about Mad Hatter and why you're here. Like, I know they're partially here because of you, but tell me the story.
You bet. So, Mad Hatter at one point was a national chain which went defunct some years back. So each of those locations became singularly owned. So Zach Haver, who is the owner of Mad Hatter that I work for, purchased the location on 140th and West Center, and recently the location on 34th and Broadway in Council Bluffs.
Oh.
So he and his wife Lynn are the owners of Mad Hatter, and it's in our industry, fixing cars, right?
Yeah.
So people get taken advantage of. They don't have car things done the right way. They're not told honestly about what's happening, and that is completely opposite of what we do. So one of the reasons why I am with this organization is because of the integrity around what they do. On a consistent basis, every single time they are part of the community. And to answer your question, so one of the things when I started with Mad Hatter here within this last year, one of the things that we talked about is a community that's a little bit marginalized, that isn't represented well. And when I had the discussion about Pride, I barely got the words out. We really should yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. All in. Really, yes,
Wow.
absolutely. We need to be part of that. We need to show people there is something different. And it's been amazing. And so Zach and his wife, and yeah, let's do this. We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. Lynn does an amazing job at putting our presence out there. We have, oh my goodness, we we enjoy the fact that we have female mechanics that people seem to, well, what is she doing back there? Well, she's working on a car. Well, that's what she's doing back there, and she'll kick your butt. Um, so we are inclusive in respect to everything within that industry, and letting people know, you know what, you can go to a place, you can have a trusted relationship, get your stuff done right, and be treated fairly and appropriately.
Yeah, and I really love that. And you're right. I mean, you know, there was a previous organization that you were with, and I know you ended up leaving there, but I know that I brought a couple of vehicles to you, and only because of the fact that I could trust you. There was that long-term relationship. But I think that who you are as a person, I can feel you carrying that into your work at Mad Hatter.
I appreciate that,
Yeah.
Eli. You know, I won't do a thing that I don't feel right about.
Yeah.
And so you can participate and do your best to try to make some fundamental change. The neat thing about Mad Hatter, honestly, it's already there. I mean, it's the culture. It's what we do.
Yeah.
So they let me act like an idiot and just be out of line and crazy, and it's great. It's great fun. I love doing it. Lynn, the owner, and Zach over there, they're not even letting me behind the counter. No, I got this. Hey, do you want to sign up for this? And they're they're just having a blast. Yeah. So
Oh,
it's
that's
really great.
awesome. That is really awesome. I mean, it's awesome to be at a company, you know, whether big or small. It's awesome to feel seen, heard, honored, and affirmed.
Yeah.
And to have owners like that be that engaged and excited about interacting with the community that's important to you
Yeah.
has to feel really
Oh,
awesome.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's, you know, that's not work. Those are labors of love. Those are things, I mean, you've known me, Eli, for years.
Yeah.
You get behind something you want to do, it ain't work. I mean, it's passion. I love it. I do this all day long, you know.
Yeah.
And with people that want to support you and do that as well, I'm in.
So where's Mad Hatter located? Where can people find you?
You bet. So we have an Omaha location,
Okay.
right on 140th and West Center. So there's a Westlake Hardware kind of right down, right off the
Oh,
road.
yeah.
We're right across the street from them.
Okay.
So that's our Omaha location. So we have ASE certified techs. So they go through training. We actually, I'll tell you what, one of the neat things about Mad Hatter, pardon me, when you work there, the philosophy of the company is you work hard, take your vacation. We want you to take vacation. And so when I started there, the owner says, well, you know, Vince, so it's also your vacation pay. And I said, well, just like your normal pay, your time off. And he said, no. Because I want to make sure you go on holiday and my technicians go on holiday. So from the person that is out there sweeping the floors to everybody, when you take your vacation, you'll get reimbursed up to $1,000 for airfare, hotel, and food to make sure that you actually go on vacation. That is the philosophy.
What?
That is the philosophy of our company.
Oh my God! Like,
So
so
not only
you
do you
get
get
paid for the vacation,
Yes.
your time off.
Yes.
You also get reimbursed for travel,
Yes.
and airfare,
Yes.
and hotel,
Yes.
up to $1,000.
To make sure that you actually go on vacation and that you can afford it.
What?
I know. That is the philosophy. That is the
That
actual
is amazing.
living philosophy of our company.
Do you need any mechanics or anything?
Yeah, we actually we look for, and Eli, I'll tell you that it can take up to a month to go through our interview process.
Yeah.
Reason being, first you're going to have phone conversation, make sure it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Then we're going to have a face-to-face to see, are you the kind of person we want, and are we the kind of place you want to work? Then we have a skill set interview, and once all that's done, then you're going to have dinner, with the entire company staff.
Wow.
From the technicians to the person answering the phone. And that is to make sure Are you the kind of people that we want? And are we the kind of people you want to work for us? We,
Wow.
the biggest investment is our team.
Yeah.
And that will come first before profit or anyone else walking in the door.
Well, and you know what I think is really important to think about in that regard is you spend 40 hours a week with these people.
Right.
And if you're not going to be copacetic with one another
Yep.
or have a cohesive
Right.
connection where it's like you can work together and feel like your family,
Yep.
then why spend 40 hours a week there?
All day long.
That is so cool.
It is. And our other to answer your question, the other location is on 34th and Broadway in Council Bluffs. So we have a facility over there as well. And again, ASC certifications. We train up to 80 hours paid training
Wow.
for every employee every year, so that there's betterment of the staff and knowledge. It's an incredible place to be.
Oh my God, it sounds incredible. I'm
Yeah.
just like, do I really want to try and be a mechanic? I'm 58.
Right. I know, right?
But it sounds amazing. So if you need a job and you are a mechanic, I'm telling you, Mad Hatter in Omaha and Council Bluffs sounds like an amazing gig, because not only do you earn time off and get paid to be off, they'll also reimburse you for some of your travel expenses up to $1,000 because they want to make sure you're taking time off. That is truly epic. Like, that is the most epic thing I've ever heard about a company.
Never heard another company do it. So
No.
you could reach me directly. It's Vince at MadHatterAutoRepair.com.
Okay.
Or MadHatterAutoRepair.com on the web. Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
both of our locations, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Vince, thank you so much for coming in and sharing about Mad Hatter and this amazing thing. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get over hearing
know.
about that. I'm just like, why doesn't every company do that?
Exactly. It shows the faith that you have in wanting the health of your people to be paramount.
Yeah.
And it is. We actually live
Yeah, and then just that whole like idea of the interview process and being able to meet other people and have a meal and share, like break bread.
Yeah,
like there's this
all day long.
community of people that you're going to become a part of.
Yeah, it's not a BS half hour. You know, Eli, you and I both can sit in a half hour. We can impress whoever.
Sure.
But this is 4 interactions, one-on-one. Let's actually get to know you. Get to know us and who we are and what we're about.
Yeah.
Come and visit the facility. Let us show you that this is actually what we do.
Yeah.
So we do the right thing every time. And if that's not a thing that you have been taught in your prior employment, we can help you change that, because that's not going to fly with us.
Right.
But let's help get you there. Let's help the betterment of what you're going to do professionally.
Awesome. Well, that is so cool. You know, but Vince is also here because, like I said, I alluded to this a little earlier about the fact that Vince and I have known each other, first of all, going on like 3 or 4 decades
Yep.
now.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, holy mackerel. That's a long time of knowing somebody. But I love this human. I really honestly think Vince is all that and a bag of chips. And what I wanted to also talk to Vince about is the fact that Vince is actually one of the people who is still living, who was there all those years ago. What was it? 1987?
84, 85.
1984, 1985. Pride March here in Omaha.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it feels like to see the parade that you saw today with 190, more than 7,000 people lining the streets and in the parade, compared to tell me a little, paint the picture for me from 1984, 85 to now.
Yeah, you know, Eli, we decided we wanted to have a parade in 1985. It wasn't a parade. It was a group of people who kept hearing about New York and San Francisco, and they did these things, and you know, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could do that here.
Yeah.
There was about 60 of us, and it was at night, and we gathered by the max. We were scared to death. There were Marcia Mess. I'll throw out some names you may remember from back then.
Yeah.
myself, some of us that were physically a little bit bigger, that were kind of protecting everybody else.
Yeah.
And there were no fanfare, there was no escort, there was the streets lined with people applauding. None of that was there. We had beer bottles thrown at us.
Mm.
We had people that were assaulted, screamed at, yelled at, that we weren't worth it. We weren't, why were we out there doing this? And we were terrified,
Yeah.
but we did it.
Yeah.
And even if you weren't in that physical parade with us, I remember looking out and seeing someone coming out from Papa Calvetti's and kind of came out and looked and waved and went back in. And it took as much courage for those individuals to do that, because you lose your job.
Yeah.
You lose your job this quick.
Well, and I think you shared with me at one point, because I actually, the first parade that I witnessed in Omaha was in 1987-88.
Right.
But I was on the sidelines because I wasn't out yet. Like,
Right.
I wasn't going to be, I was worried about if my parents found out. Like,
Yep.
there are all these things
That's right.
that I was concerned about. But I hear you shared that there were folks who walked in this march who actually wore bags over their heads.
all day long.
Yeah.
So part of what, because you'd lose your job.
Yep.
So last year, I did a float with some of the other original members of Pride for Omaha.
Yeah.
And we did. There were bags, so you had your eyes cut out and your mouth so you could breathe, because you'd lose your job. Your car would get vandalized. You'd get beat up after the parade.
Yeah.
So probably a third to a half of the people had that type of protection or facade,
Yeah.
so that they would feel okay just to walk through that. So, being part of that, and over the years, I've participated in the parades time and time again. And each little step, you get a little bit more, and there's a little more people.
Yeah.
I see an event like this, and I never in my life thought that I would be in an environment that I didn't have to feel terrified. And that side of me that will come stand up and say, I'll kick your ass, which is still really there. But what I see are little kids here, and come up, and one of the kids came up to the booth and, hey, thanks for the bracelet. And I become overwhelmed by those simple things. So
Yeah.
for an old geezer such as myself,
Old geezers like both of us.
but it's over. I never thought in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I never thought in my lifetime. So to be able to participate, continue to do that, it's sad that the state of affairs today make it necessary for those of us who are around in the 80s to get more involved again because of the horse shit that is going on.
Yeah.
I didn't put up with it in 1984, and I am not putting up with it today.
Oh, you and me both. I mean, I am. You know me. I'm not quiet.
That's not how I describe you. No, that is not.
I'm not quiet. I talk about all the things that are happening politically or otherwise. I mean, being a trans person myself, the attacks this past year, I mean, across the U.S., more than 525 pieces of legislation proposed and many passed.
Yep.
That were targeting specifically trans folks and trans rights.
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, I tell people today, if you are part of this community, you have to take all of us.
That's right.
We are all a part of this community, and we all need to be celebrated and honored and affirmed. And I always tell people, I'm here. If you have questions about what it means to be trans, non-binary, gender diverse, or expansive, two-spirit, I'm here to answer those questions. I will never tell you to Google it. I will always take time. My private messages on Facebook are open to anyone. You can find me and send me a message, and I will respond. I will say this much. You may not like all the answers that I give you, but I will respond.
Yep.
And so I think it's really important. Like, I got just as choked up as you did, just now, thinking about the progression over the years and how we've seen things just explode.
Yep.
I would say within the last 5 years,
Yeah.
things have really exploded.
I agree.
And so we see a lot more happening at Pride, and and it's important though to also remember the folks like you who came early on and said, we're going to do this because we deserve to be seen. Unfortunate that you had to have it at night, right?
Yeah,
I probably didn't even hear about it because I graduated high school in 1983.
Right. And there was one article in the newspaper about it.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And you know what? You were also part of the UNO archives, right?
Correct.
So they talked to you all and interviewed
Yep.
some of you about that. So
Correct.
can people go to the UNO? Is that like open to anybody to go to search the archives and find out that information?
Absolutely. One of the banners they use, I was also one of the representatives in '87 at the March on Washington.
Oh.
And so that's one of the posters that they use. As you mentioned that, so UNO LGBT Archive is open up to anybody. The function that I'm doing on the 29th is a fundraising event for the archive itself.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So so now you have to tell us more.
Oh, jeez.
You can't
Oh, my
just
goodness.
because Vince has a sordid past. Stick around. Don't leave. Turn the volume up. Vince has a sordid past.
Well, that's a way to put it. So, as you know, yes. So way back in the day, on a consistent basis, I performed female impersonation as Velvet, and due to a myriad of situations, on the 29th of July, down at the Max at 6:30, I will be entertaining again. Last time I had a show, Eli, probably 20 years ago. So I am, the proceeds from the door will go to UNO LGBT Queer Archives. I've got entertainers, Phoenix Valentino. You may have heard.
Gosh, yes.
You may have heard her name, the diva herself.
Oh my gosh, I haven't heard that name in forever.
Katrina Kane,
Oh,
Madam X, Roxy.
see, I'm gonna have to come to this show for sure.
It is going to be a ball buster. So we are putting this on at 6 o'clock. The proceeds from the door are going to go to UNO. And yes, you can absolutely go online. Amy down at UNO would be able to help you if you'd like to go and actually see the display. It's amazing, from the new voice of Nebraska all the way from way back when in the 60s and 70s about Omaha local gay history.
Awesome. Yes, I'm very familiar with archives. They've actually wanted to interview me, and I'm like, I've been hesitant. I don't know why.
You should do it.
I know I should because I mean,
it is a documentation of where we were and how we got here.
Yeah.
And you are as critical a part of that as anybody that I've known, Eli. So that's very true. That's part of what got us here.
Yeah.
So it's important you participate as well.
Well, I appreciate you, Vince, so much, and thank you for jumping in the podcast trailer with me
You bet.
and having a chat and bringing us back to some of that history in regard to Pride, because I really do think it's important. If we don't remember where we came from,
Yeah.
it's hard to imagine where we're going.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone last night who was talking about, so great to see all the young people. And I think it is, but sometimes they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And so it's like they come here and they see all of this love and inclusion and all this, but then when they go out into the world in places that aren't like Mad Hatter, right?
Yeah.
That aren't open and affirming and willing to be supportive of the community, even though they're not members,
Yep.
but they're active allies.
Yep.
I think that the kiddos don't know what they don't know because they don't know where things
Right.
came from, to no fault of their own. So I think it's really important to think about, if you haven't gone to the UNO archives, it's at the library at UNO. I would go and check it out and learn about some of the history of Pride here locally, about people who did things locally to get us to the point where we had 190 entries in a parade and 289 vendors here at the CHI Center this year. Like, where we've come from to where we are now is truly phenomenal. It's remarkable. So if you're not down here, you should get down here. The vendor booths are going to be open for another couple of hours. They're going to close at 5, and then there's evening entertainment. But also remember, on July 29th,
Yep.
July 29th, go to the Max. It's an adult show, I'm assuming, because it's at the Max.
Something along that line, perhaps.
So this is for the adults. You got to be old enough to get into the bar, y'all. $10 door. What's the cover?
$3 cover.
Oh, $3 cover. I'm
Yeah.
going to get there early.
Yeah, $3.
Because I'm going to bring up my camera. I'm going to have to photograph some of
Perfect.
this. We've got some drag queens from days gone by who are going to be performing for us again, including Velvet.
Starts at 6:30 sharp.
6:30. I mean, that's something
But
for a
get
drag
there
show.
early because there's folks flying in from out of town for this event. So
Oh,
I would suggest to
okay.
get there early.
This is a big thing. Like, what a huge draw you have,
It's,
Velvet.
It's or burlap, more how I feel lately. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Vince. I
bet,
really
right.
appreciate you coming and having this chat with me. It's
You
always
bet.
good to see you.
It's good to see
Get
you.
a big bear hug from Papa.
Love it. I love it.
All right, y'all. I'm going to take a little break here, and we will be back. I don't know who's going to jump in the trailer with me next. It's been kind of a random choice. People are self-selecting. But if you do happen to be watching this and you are in the venue and you want to have a conversation with me, come on over and knock on the door. And people are going to start tearing down. However, there is still an evening of activities that are going to be happening here at the CHI Center. Great entertainment happening, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I have been waiting and waiting for this lovely person, my next guest, to come and have a chat with me. And the Speaking of Happy podcast trailer, I have the person who is the parade director here sitting with me. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of the Heartland Pride Parade Festival from their knowing of how things have changed, because there are a few changes this year as well. We're also going to get some solid numbers about how many people showed up, we think, how many floats were in the parade. It was massive. It was like a 2.5-hour affair. It just kept going and going and going. So I want everybody to welcome with me Samuel Parnell is here in the podcast trailer with me right now to talk all things parade. Sam, thank you so much for being here. Or Samuel, do you go by Samuel normally?
Either or. You
'Cause
could yell out, "Hey you," and I'd probably respond.
Well, but I don't want to do that.
No,
I mean,
Sam or Samuel. I'm not picky.
Okay. I just want to be clear because I know sometimes people who have names that are longer names like Samuel, they go by Samuel and they don't want to be called the shortened version. So, but now that we've clarified that, thank you so much for stepping in the podcast trailer.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a long time coming. I've been meaning to do this forever.
Yes, for I think the past couple, well, for sure, since last year.
Yeah.
We tried to connect a few times last year, and it just never quite worked out that way.
yeah.
So, Sam, tell me something. What were some of the final numbers in regard to the entries in the parade? And then I know you don't have any clickers or anything for how many people might have actually lined the streets, but do you have an idea? I mean, it seemed like there were so many people.
Yeah. So my unofficial estimate as of right now is, or maybe official estimate, I guess it would be, is we had over 190 entrances into the parade. I counted 191 total on my staging sheet, the final staging sheet, but I know I had a few drop, a few add at the very last minute. So, but, after I got everything printed, there was a few minor changes. So I'm going to count again, but 191 is my fair guess right now. So
Okay. So, do you, I mean, have you seen, so you've been doing this job for a while, this parade stuff. Have you seen over time, how have you seen a shift?
Yeah, so, I took over in 2021, and that was after 2020, which was a really trying year, not only for our community, but for a lot of communities. And, I think a lot of people, a lot of corporations, a lot of businesses realized after that year that this is no longer negotiable. This is something that has to change and has to be, a part of companies' culture. And they have to make a presence. It's no longer an option. It never has been an option, but now it's really not.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we've seen so much growth. In 2021, that was the first year I did the parade. We had about 107 entries. And then last year we had about 150 in 2022, and that was when it was still in that older area, downtown, the old market area, kind of down Harney. And that was a great route, but it just didn't allow for us to expand staging. I mean, last year that I did it in that route, I ended up taking a block that wasn't even permitted for us, and the city just kind of had to deal with it. So thank you. But this year, we've really maximized our staging, and I know now how many entrances I can fit into that area, and so next year I'm hoping that we can break 225.
Wow. I mean, so the other thing that I think is really interesting about this, so you're saying that literally just 2 years ago, there were 107,
Yes. Yep.
and this year there was 191.
Sure was. And I kind of joke about it with Nikki. She was the one that did the parade before me. And we were having some drinks the other night, and I had mentioned, yeah, I had mentioned that she said something about training me. She said I trained him to be this or whatever, and I made the joke that I'm like, well, you trained me when it was still 100 entries. Now it's 200. But then I started thinking though, and I'm like, we've literally almost doubled the size of the parade in the same amount of time. I mean, it was
Yeah.
2 hours then. It's 2 hours now. Well, 2.5 hours now. But yeah, going back to numbers, I estimate about 7,300 people in the parade, and then I estimate about 30 to 35,000 just watching the parade this year.
You really think 35,000 people
I think
showed up
potentially.
in downtown Omaha to watch this parade?
I think they did.
Wow. I mean, I mean, literally when I came around that first corner,
Yeah.
because I was in it with my truck every year. I'm
Yep.
usually towards the front.
Yep.
When I came around that corner, it was like, took my breath away. I was like, holy mackerel, look at
Yeah.
all of these people
Yeah.
lining the streets for this.
I'm going to be completely honest. I was really kind of worried because when I planned this route, when you drive down Capitol Street on a Tuesday night, it looks massive, right? I mean, it looks like super wide, and it looks like a ton of sidewalk space, and it is. But then, and then I think back to the old market area where that always looked so full, and it made for really cool pictures and all this stuff. And I guess it really shows how many people come out and support us. But yeah, I mean, I rounded the corner too. I mean, I was kind of standing on that corner watching anyway. But there was an incident that happened that I took a few steps back, and I turned and I looked down, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a lot of people here.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that people didn't really realize is they didn't realize that, after coming down Capitol, when you take that turn onto, is it 13th?
10th.
10th.
Yep.
So when you take that turn onto 10th, that's where the crowd kind of waned. And I think people didn't realize they could still be on both sides.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's like there were a lot of people as you were coming along CHI down along the front of the event center. So there were a lot of people down that way. But I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Like I had already, after the parade ended, I had circled around and turned right in and brought the truck inside here to the arena. And then I walked to go give my volunteers their wristbands.
Yeah.
And the parade was still going.
Yeah.
And that was like at honestly 11:50. And so the parade started at 10.
Yep. Yeah, it ran for a long time. I mean, I was a little bit worried because I had city officials coming up to me and going, where are we at? Where are we at? And the first probably half hour, I was pretty nervous because a half hour had passed and we made it through 2 blocks, and I have 15. I was like, oh, that's not great.
Wow.
But we ended up actually, making it work and fitting everybody in that time frame. So the city was happy. In fact, for the first year ever, the police department actually came up afterwards and said that was the most easiest job for us, and they were appreciative of that, which I, of course, I'm trying to make everybody's job easy. And the city of Omaha was there, their human rights and human relations department was there, and I mean, everybody just had a good time. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. Really happy to hear that because, having the city be supportive is also really important and very
Absolutely.
key. I will say though, towards the end, when they were trying to get everybody to take a left, and
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm actually going inside.
Yep,
My
yep.
truck is going inside, and they were like, and they kept trying to get me to go,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then finally the one cop on the one side was like, go ahead.
Yeah.
So
And-
it's like,
And we I'm not making excuses, but we are an all volunteer board, and
Yeah.
so every year we look to see what can we do better, and that was one thing that we have to please city officials, we have to please CHI officials, we've got to please parade participants, and so sometimes it can be difficult with that many moving parts, and so that's one thing that next year I'm going to work on is more communication near the end there, because I know some people that wanted to go straight couldn't, and I get it. The city has a job to open up the route as quick as possible after an event like that, and so they wanted 10th Street opened as quick as possible. But I mean, to get back to CHI, they should have let you in, but again.
oh, they did. No.
Eventually.
They did let me in, and I just stopped and I just
Yeah.
sat there. And again, I'm not trying to complain or
Yeah.
anything, and I totally get. I mean, that's one of the things that I talk about almost every time I
Yeah.
open my mouth to talk about Pride, is that this is an all volunteer board, all volunteers who are coming to work the event,
Yep.
and y'all, for that, I feel like y'all do an amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
So
yeah.
thank you for what you have done, what you continue to do, because this is a massive event.
Yeah, yeah, and we've continued it on, but Eli was one of the first people to put Pride together. You were the first. You were the first board officially, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
a member of the first board
Yep.
for Heartland Pride.
Yep.
There
yep.
are other Pride organizations prior to
Yeah.
Heartland Pride, but I was one of the founders of
Yep.
Heartland Pride.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we obviously couldn't be here without people like you starting it. So we appreciate that too.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. I am honored to say that I have been a part of it, and it really it chokes me up because I'm so grateful that it has continued to grow and grow and grow, because it is important. Like, some of these organizations that are now showing up at Pride, like I ran into a friend and she was like, our company is here. This is the first time that they've ever been to Pride.
Yeah.
And so it's huge to be thinking that we have these organizations and these companies that are finally saying, hey, we want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And we need to be a part of this.
Yep.
So that's huge. So what else can you tell us about the parade and some of the other things? Can you give us any sneak peeks on who might have won some awards for the parade?
I will give you a hint. There is one. I gotta think about this. Hang on. Yeah, one company or organization, I should say, that is a repeat from last year. So they won an award last year, and they are winning an award again this year. So
Awesome.
we are. If you're watching and you're here at the festival, we're gonna announce them around 5 to 5:15 is where we're slotted, but sometimes that gets moved around. Sometime after 5 o'clock. We're gonna announce that here on the arena stage, and then we'll also put them on the Heartland Pride Facebook page as well.
Okay, so you're going to announce them on the arena stage,
Correct.
but not in where the vendors are.
As far as
Because
I
the
know,
vendors are
no,
closing down at 5.
Yeah, yeah.
And what were the awards? Are there 3 awards that are given out? And what are
Correct.
those 3 awards?
Yeah, good question. So those 3 awards were Best Overall, Best Use of Pride Colors, and Best Float. So
Oh,
Yep.
okay. You got rid of. There used to be one that youth got to vote for.
Yeah, no, we haven't done that the last few years, but next year I want to make a few more awards because with a 200, almost 200 entries and 3 awards, I mean, there's more opportunity there. Plus, Regal's giving me a really good deal on rewards if I order more. No, but really, at the end of the day, the awards are fun, but really, I mean, everybody from the companies with millions of dollars that come out with huge floats down to the 1 or 2 person ran nonprofits. I truly appreciate everybody coming out. Heartland Pride does. Just this morning we were presented with a donation from Caesars Entertainment, and that stuff is what keeps this going. I mean, it's not free,
Right.
And so without that support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do and have an awesome festival and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing that people need to understand, because this is kind of an ongoing complaint that I always hear is like, why does Pride cost $20?
yeah,
And it's like, there are other prides in other areas, even close by, that are charging more than that.
yep.
And so you have to understand there are costs, there are expenses that have
Yep.
to be covered, that have to be paid for. And I think that Heartland Pride has done a phenomenal job of keeping that ticket price lower.
Yeah.
So I think that's just something, that's important to understand. If I can help anybody out this year, if you're not at Pride and you're watching this, start saving your pennies.
Yeah.
You know what? If you put a penny aside every day for the next year, you will have $3.54. So you might want to save a little bit more than that.
Maybe a
But
nickel
even
a day or something.
or a quarter.
Yeah. there you go. That's actually a kind of an interesting thing that you bring up there. And a lot of people say that. They say, I wish Pride was free and so on and so forth. And, I truly wish it was. I always say if I won the lottery, which I don't play, but if I did.
Well, you do have to win in order to play.
Yeah. I would pay every single expense that we have for Pride. That would be the first thing I do with my winnings because, I would love to make it free. The unfortunate thing is this arena with air conditioning costs money to run. But I will say if you want to get to Pride next year, we've got tons of volunteer opportunities. I will never turn a volunteer away from the parade. Even if it's you stand at a corner and you watch entrants, go by and make sure they're in order. I'll take a volunteer because that volunteer gets a free ticket. You also get a t-shirt, which is cool. And so there are free ways to get in, and so,
Yep. There are ways to get in. So think about that for next year. You can sign up on Heartland Pride's website to become a volunteer for Pride. But if you save 25 cents a day for 365 days, you will have $91.25.
There you go.
So start setting your money aside, because what that'll get you? That'll get you into Pride, plus pay some of the fees, as well as you could buy yourself some lunch.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah. Or pick up lunch in between the parade and the festival. Then it's even cheaper.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Sam, thank you so much again.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
you. You're an awesome human being. I'm
You
so
are too.
grateful that you are part of Pride and that you're willing to continue to do this, because I know it is not a small job.
No.
Putting this kind of an event together is huge. There's a lot of moving parts. Even just being responsible for the parade portion of it is pretty huge. How many volunteers would you say you need to have in order to have the parade go off without a hitch? What would be your ideal number of volunteers?
Good question. Yeah. So I typically like anywhere between 30 and 40 volunteers. This year I had a little less. I think I maybe had 18 or 19 officially. And I appreciate every single one of you. The volunteers is what makes it run. Just like the Pride board is volunteer, our volunteers of course are volunteers, and they of course get the ticket to come in, but it's a lot of work. It's what makes the parade run. So I appreciate all of
Well,
it.
it makes the entire festival go off without a hitch. The parade, the festival, all of it. So again, my buddy Samuel is here. He is the parade director. So he is the guy that is making sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted when it comes to the parade and celebration here with Heartland Pride. Pride 2023, again, the vendor booths and all that is down on the main level. That's going to be open for another 45 minutes. And then the evening's festivities are going to start because we have lots of entertainment. And actually, since you're here,
Yeah.
I'll just ask you that question. Who are some of the folks that are going to be performing this evening?
Yeah, so David Hernandez will be back. He was here in 2021 for Pride. We were trying to get Willie Gomez to come back, but unfortunately a scheduling conflict came up, and thankfully we were able to secure David, who's a phenomenal person, huge supporter of Pride. We also have Venus Delight coming. Estelle, "You Be My American Boy," that song. Sorry, I won't sing anymore. Estelle will be here. Pork Chop is our MC, super funny. And Tiffany will be here as well. I think a few others.
I know there's some dregs. I totally get it. And I could have pulled all that up on the website.
And
but I
lots of
didn't.
local entertainment as well in between.
Yeah,
We
yep.
like to support our local entertainers too.
And they're actually compensated for performing at Pride.
They
Is
are.
that correct?
They are.
Yes.
Yep.
And you go through a process to select them.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yep. So this year we actually, for the first time, we've got a new board position that Lucy Roxia, who's a local drag entertainer,
Yeah.
has taken that position, and we had a battle for the top, I believe 10 or 11 spots, something like that. And then what's cool though is even if you weren't able to secure one of those top main stage spots, you were able to perform on the second stage that we had upstairs, which ended about 15 minutes ago. So that was from 2 to 4 today.
Oh, nice.
So if you wanted to perform, you were pretty much guaranteed to perform at Pride this year, and that main stage has quite a few local entertainment, like I said, as well.
Very cool. All right. Well, that's it for now. I'm going to let Sam get back to any work that he may need to finish up on, although I think he's done. His part was the parade, and that has been over for a while now.
Yep.
So that's it. I'm going to put us on pause. I might be back with another interview. I don't know. We don't have as many people showing up and wanting to talk to me as I've had in the past, but it's all good. We've had a great time here today. But again, Heartland Pride 2023 is still going on. You can still get a ticket at the door. It's only $20 plus some fees, but that'll get you into tonight's entertainment. We're going to want to do a quick run through. Again, there's 289 vendors this year, which is just a massive amount of people down here for Pride 2023 at the CHI Center downtown off 10th Street. So if you're not already here, there's entertainment going into the evening. There are still tickets available at the door, $20 each, plus some fees. But it's really a small price to pay for the entertainment that's happening tonight. So if you're not here, get on down here. Now, if you are with an organization that wasn't in the parade today or didn't have a booth, you can certainly get a hold of Heartland Pride at heartlandpride.org or Heartland Pride on Facebook, and let them know that you want to be a vendor next year or maybe even be a sponsor. The board is all volunteer board, so nobody's getting paid. All the money that they make actually goes right back into producing Pride. So help continue to support Pride by giving a donation. They are a 501c3, so it's a write-off if you just give them money. So let's keep Pride growing year from year to year, and hopefully I'll see you next year at the Pride, the Speaking of Happy podcast trailer. It's a big, huge travel trailer with a big intersex inclusive and two-spirit inclusive Pride flag on one side, and I will be back here again next year. My name's Eli Rigatuso. I'm with Speaking of Happy. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find me on Facebook. You can also find me out on Instagram and on, that's it. Oh, Threads. I'm out on Threads as well. So thank you very much for those of you who did tune in today. Appreciate the support. And I will be back hopefully shortly with some new episodes of Speaking of Happy and Frankly Speaking. So take care, y'all. Happy Pride. Be safe out there.